and then you'll let us know when to get going.
Definitely.
You can continue chatting, and as long as it's not secrets, it's fine.
So it's now live on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Normally, I prefer that we don't really start immediately when it goes live, because then people start joining when they see it going live, so that we just let a few people join us. So Lisiko, you can share the link so that while we're waiting, then we can share the link.
So there we are. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes people are a bit late, they're still logging in or so.
We just try not to be the ones who are late. So we'll give them a few minutes, seconds, not minutes. And then we can get started. There's an echo. I'm not sure where it's coming from.
It's from me.
Give them a few minutes. Okay.
That is why I prefer to.
Okay, I think let's get started. We're still getting a bit of an echo.
Yeah.
I'm not sure from where. Culprit, so.
I'm the culprit. I'm trying to mute myself now.
Okay.
So our audience is mostly women. Oh, it's a good mix.
Yeah, it's on silent.
It's a mix.
Do you still hear the echo?
Yeah.
We're still getting it. I'm not sure now where it's coming from.
My phone is off, guys, so it can't be me.
Yeah, mine is off as well.
Yeah, Lisiko is on mute, so it can't be Lisiko.
I'm also on mute.
Should we mute and then just let us know if you can receive it? I'm going to mute and let me know if you're still receiving the feedback.
Yeah, I think that's better. Mute all of you and then, okay, so there's no feedback. So let one person at a time come in, then we can see who's the culprit. Start Peladi. Okay.
Unmute it.
Okay. Queen.
Let me mute.
Hi, guys.
Okay, we're fine. Sis P.
Hello, guys.
Okay. So I guess maybe it's when we are all on. Let's try it again, all of us be on and see. Otherwise, then we'll have, when we are not talking, then you'll have to switch off. Let's all unmute and see whether we still get it. Eladi, okay.
I'm on.
Yeah, when we're all on.
Yeah, when we're all on is a problem. So everybody then put your mics off, and then you switch on when you're the one speaking then. So I guess maybe to avoid all of us speaking at the same time, then you'll have to raise your hand when you want to speak, so that then one person at a time can switch on the mic. Welcome those who are joining us from the Facebook Live, Dr. J, Business Support. We are having a women conversation today. We call them conversations that matter. We try to speak about those topics that most of the time we really don't make time to speak about, which are important in our journeys in life, whether as career women, as mothers, as entrepreneurs, as executives, whatever that you call yourself. It's conversations that really matter. I've got 3 phenomenal women that are joining me today that have been making it in their spaces. I know they don't like me to say they are making it in their spaces, but they are. And I will let them introduce themselves, because otherwise, if I try to read their CVs, then we're going to finish tomorrow. We'll start with you, Sis P. If you can just introduce yourself shortly, then after you, Queen, and then Dr. Peladi will be the last one. Over to you, Sis P. Unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone on Facebook Live, and thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Dr. J, for making this opportunity. My name is Pindile Mthethwa, and I call myself an enterprise development practitioner. I think that's what I'm good at. But I've worked for several organizations, corporate and non-corporate, NGOs, you know. I've worked for banks, and I've navigated the boardroom quite a lot. I want to believe that having worked so many years, you know, I've got something perhaps to share with our audience today, especially around boardroom navigation. I also sit on the board of the Blood Services, South African National Blood Services. And then I have a side gig as a pastor. So I'm a pastor of a church in Soweto, in Freedom Park. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Sis P. I like that you call your main job as a side gig. That's interesting. Okay, Queen, over to you.
My name is Queen, and I'm not just called Queen because my mother had it from the street. So there's a little bit teeny-weeny royal blood in me. So yeah, so I've got like 15 years of working experience in finance. My skill is mainly in finance. I mean, I've held various positions in finance. Again, I also worked for various size organizations. I mean, I worked for a small company. I was really a finance manager at a very early age, at the age of about 26. And then from then on, I moved on to different type roles because I'm always looking for opportunities to grow. My strength, I think I love teaching. I love transferring skills. It's one of something that is in my heart, and I believe that one day probably I will own a training company. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's me.
Okay, thank you, Queen. Also, now we know that we are not just Queen by name. Dr. P.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening to you, our host, Dr. J. My name is Peladi Mushala. Currently, I'm a manager capacity development, and I've been a senior scientist before, and I would like to think of myself as a social innovation enthusiast at the moment. And I have currently 19 years working experience. This includes 8 years, which I spent in academia, and the rest in the business industry. And I'm very passionate about curriculum development of chemical science degrees in South African University and University of Technology. And a lot of my time I spent in developing or grooming scientists in terms of motivating them or mentoring them and coaching them, and as well as collaboration portfolio that I run. And one of the things that really, just mentioning it in terms of society, is that currently what really drives me currently is social impact. So anything that I really will put my energy into. It has to be something that matters. It has to be something that really will benefit the society. It has to be something that has an impact. So that is my journey currently, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to interacting tonight with you, Dr. J, and the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. P. I always tell Dr. P that she needs to stop calling herself Peladi and add the DR at the beginning of that name, because we work for these titles, you know, it's not those ones that you just get given, and you need to get the benefit of it. So you need to update your Zoom, Dr. P. There's a DR that's missing there. So welcome again to everybody on Facebook. I trust that you will benefit from this conversation. We're hoping that you will engage with us. If you've got questions, you've got comments, just drop it on the Facebook page. And Lesego is there checking all the messages there. So you can just send a note and say hi, say who you are, where you are joining us from, and welcome to everybody. So our conversation really today is mainly a panel discussion, as I said, with phenomenal women that have been making it in their spaces. We all in life want to be successful, but the truth of the matter is that we can't deny the fact that as women, there are certain things that we need to navigate around that sometimes don't make our life as straightforward as we would like it to be. But above that, we still need to be able to make it. And one of the things that I personally find that is very key, or is a basic foundation for women to be able to succeed in their life, is to first finding themselves. Because if you don't find yourself, I don't know, some will say, were we lost or what? But the truth of the matter is that the culture we live in, the communities that we live in, sometimes makes us forget about ourselves, that we matter in the equation, that we are important in the equation, that not only other people need to love us, but we need to love ourselves. And that not only other people need to find us, but we need to find ourselves. So I'm going to open the floor, and I'm going to start with this. I don't know whether it's an easy question or a difficult question, but it's a basic thing for every woman who wants to make it in life, wants to make it in their career. You need to find yourself. I'll start with Dr. P. How has the journey been, and how did you find yourself, if you have found yourself?
Thank you, Dr. J. I think that's the most important thing to really do self-reflection on, in terms of who you are and finding yourself. So for me, the process of finding yourself came really in 2012, when I actually gave birth to my last born daughter, in terms of actually examining my life and trying to figure out what is it that is missing. Because I think at that particular time, I really look back and try to understand what is it that is missing in my life. And what I realized was that at that particular time, that everything that I was doing at that particular time, it didn't have Peladi in it, but it had everyone else that I was trying maybe to imitate, or trying to fit in, or trying to be somebody in the professional arena personally. And that is really so tiring. And once you actually have that self-reflection and understand what is it that is missing in your life, and actually taking steps towards fulfillment, then one of the things that actually came was for myself, when I realized that I need to start showing who Peladi is, other than, for example, if you are employed in a certain role, you look at other people and you really want to imitate them and to be like them, so that you will think that you'll be successful. You will think that if I try to be like this, really make it in terms of my career professionally or personally as a person. But that takes a huge amount of energy. that is so draining. And once you are drained, then you realize that there is something missing. And when I did that self-reflection, I started taking steps towards fulfillment. And I decided that I'm going to show up every day as Philadi. And it's okay if people, they don't like the real Philadi. But I started actually, for example, liking who I am, and then starting to really have that inner reflection of who I am. And then that actually then started the journey in terms of self-visualization, my ideal self. But I think firstly, you need to start with that question, inner self question of saying, who am I? What is it missing in my life? And what are those steps that I need to take to really get to my ideal self? So once I actually have those steps in terms of towards my fulfillment, then life became, I felt so liberated as a person. I was actually talking my truth every day, and the effort were really so easy in a lot of ways, and you become actually much happier. And from that moment, I actually knew that this is who I'm supposed to be, and I really need to make an effort to continue being myself.
Okay, that's interesting. Who Philadi is. And you started being happier the day you knew who Philadi is. Okay, let's hear from the other panelists. Who wants to go next? Did you find yourself? How did you find yourself? And what was the key things that you find out about yourself?
So I believe that it will continue to be a journey where finding yourself is not a destination. You know, we are continuously looking into our new priorities, looking at what makes us happy continuously. But I must say, the tipping moment for me was, I think it was in 2016, similar to what Dr. Philadi said, when you realize that your life and your energy is consumed by prioritizing other people, right? And prioritizing. Sometimes it is culture that put us in that situation, you know, when you are a married woman, you're expected to behave in this certain way. And when you know that this is not you, and you continue in that journey until a moment that make you realize that, you know what, the fact of the matter is that I've got so much to achieve in life, and I have to prioritize differently. I have to prioritize myself. I must say I'm fortunate that I've always had, or have always been one person who's a bit selfish. You know, I always put myself first most of the time. Okay, maybe not necessarily always. That transition, yeah, some people call me selfish, and I'm okay with it, you know. And you become a happier person. You're not grumpy when people don't say thank you. You become less and less unhappy about how people, you know, accept you or reject you, because, you know, at least I was not trying to, you know, I was not trying to faking to show up, you know. This is just what I was, being me, which is queen. So that 2016 was a big moment for me. And since then, in fact, when that happened, that's when I decided I am going to enroll for my MBA and spend all this time, spend a lot of my time investing in myself. Thank you.
Okay, I like that. We're bringing in an element of education in the mix. We'll come back to that. Sis P?
Unlike Queen and Philadi, Dr. Philadi, you earned it. Yeah, Dr. P. Unlike Queen and Dr. P, I think there is no moment I can pinpoint and say, at this point, I found myself. Like you said, it's been a journey, and there are snippets of incidents and places in my life where I can say, this is where I redefined myself. This is where I made a certain choice that I would behave in a certain manner. And it's various challenges in life, it's various positions that one gets that then require me to constantly reinvent and redefine myself. So it's a journey, it's ongoing. And as I aspire for more things, you know, I find that I'm having to find another aspect of Phindi and dig deep and find something else about uPhindi that I can bring on the table. So for me, it's just been that that I am constantly on the lookout for a new Phindile, a new challenge, a new me. You know, if sometimes it even goes with seasons, you know, it's spring. I'm gonna have a much brighter personality, you know. But it's been an ongoing journey, transitioning from time to time, you know, based on what's on the table at the time.
Okay, so that's interesting. So all of us, we've got different journeys. Some people, there's a point in time in their life that they can point to say this is where the change happened, and some people it's a process, and there's certain things that happen in your life that gets you to that moment of every day realizing that you need to be a better you. I want to twist the question a bit and say we all are Black people, and we live in a certain culture as women. Before you found yourself or after finding yourself, how has that interfered with the culture and the expectations, especially for those who are married? How has that interfered with that, and how did you deal with that and remain real to yourself without being contradictory to what is kind of like the expectation in our society as women? Who wants to go first?
Let me just go first, Dr. J. When I got divorced, for those who don't know, I am divorced. When I got divorced, I was a born-again Christian. I was young. It was unheard of. You know, it was difficult for the community I was in to fathom and make head or tail of it, let alone just dealing with me, not knowing the types of conversations they would have with me, you know.
Yeah.
And church members in particular would struggle with this issue of divorce when the Bible says God hates divorce. It became my task, it became my job to change people's minds about the fact that we live in this world, and the reality of it is people do get divorced, whether they are saved or not. And I'm not gonna run away from my Christian beliefs just because I am now divorced. Because it would simply say that I became a Christian on account of wanting to be married. So I had to prove that I was a Christian because of my belief system, and it had nothing to do with marriage. And when marriage failed, God hadn't failed. I wanted to say to the world, you know what, as individuals we fail, but it doesn't make God a failure. And so I stayed on, and I was lucky to be supported by men primarily, who did not see, who did not view me as a divorcee, but viewed me as a church member who could add value to the church one way or another. And a lot of them continue to support me to this day. But it has been quite interesting to see the level at which men were prepared to support my journey, you know, relative to the sisters. Sisters have come in, you know, slowly, and they are getting acclimatized to this thing. But you can still see that the church struggles with such things. And maybe Dr. P and Queen, will give us other perspectives. I've just given the church perspective, and I do have other boardroom stories, but perhaps they can come in from the commercial side.
Okay. I'm picking up this issue where you say you were supported mainly by men, which is one of the things that I find painful in our society, that as women, we fail to understand and support each other's struggles. We are quick to judge and put people in a box. You know, I always say life doesn't have a white and a black box where there are all the bad and the devils and the good, and the other box with the good and all that kind of a thing. Life is complicated. And I think those are stories, Sis P, that I think, especially when you are a bit older in life, that we need to start talking more about, to say as human beings, or especially as women, we need to be the ones that understand each other's struggles better and support each other, than to think if the other one is divorced, is a little devil, because I'm still married, then I'm the better Christian. And one of the things that I also say is that don't be too proud about something you don't have control over. You don't have control over a man. He can decide to marry you, he can decide to divorce you. As much as you also don't have control about what happens in a marriage. It can work for you. You can be the one sometimes that decide to divorce because it doesn't work for you. But we tend not to understand that life is complicated. We put people in boxes, and if they don't fit in the box that we have defined, and then we judge them. So I just want to emphasize that, to say, as women, the fact that you still have a ring on your finger, Dr. P, and Sis P doesn't have it, does not make you better than her. But we all need to support each other. We all want good things. We all want to succeed. And supporting each other is one of the things that makes us stronger. Doesn't make any other person better than the other. Okay, let me not dwell too much on that. Let's hear the other members, panelists, what they are finding themselves, and the culture and the contradictions, how it panned out for them.
So for me, I've always believed that I'm able to communicate well, okay, not necessarily in language, but the people around me always know what they expect from me. So the transition in a immediate part of my life was not so bad, but obviously, coming from a Black community, we are big families, right? So, and people had to deal with the fact that Queen sometimes might not come to the funeral, and it's okay. So it took a bit of time for people to acclimatize to that, to say, it's okay, she's not going to be able to make it. And at times, it might compromise even your relationship with your own family when you are on that journey of finding yourself, or when you just discovered yourself. You might have a contradiction with family because they don't understand what is going on in you, right? They don't understand your plan, where you are, what are you thinking about, what do you want to achieve. And unfortunately, we're coming from families that perhaps most of the people in our families have never reached the level of seniority that maybe some of us have reached in the family, as much as it might not necessarily be a huge level that you are at work. But the fact of the matter is that you find that some of your family members have no idea, they cannot comprehend what one has to go through to be able to sustain that type of level, and you're doing it for the good of the family as well, right? So that transition was a little bit rough, but I must say, it's about strategy. So if you plan to, when you're spending time with your family, and you make it worth it, and you're not necessarily on your phone, so somehow it closes the gap, right? You're intentional when you are interacting with your family. You're intentional when you're spending time with your husband and your children, and you start understanding what is quality time that you spend with the people that you love. So overall, it hasn't been that bad, at least from my immediate areas of my life, perhaps a little bit, bit far from the people who don't understand what I go through. Because some of the people, my family will be able to see, my sister, my mother, they'll be able to see that this person is just not ignoring us. She's really investing time in her future and the future of actually the rest of us, because the more we get better, the more we're able to also help our families, right? So yeah, thank you.
Okay. So that worked for you, that you can communicate. Yeah, I still even remember you from my PDBA class. You were the very most vocal student. So you were clear about everything you did not like and what you liked, and that worked for you. And unfortunately, not all of us have those strong personalities where we are able to clearly communicate and get across what we're trying to do and all those things. Let's hear from the introvert, because I know Queen is the extrovert one. Let's hear how Sis P, the introvert, Dr. P, how she navigated.
Let me surprise you. I'm actually an ambivert, so I've got 50-50.
Okay, that does not show. Okay, Dr. P.
Thank you, Dr. J. I think from myself, when I started with trying to visualize my ideal self. So in a nutshell, my life has gone pretty smooth according to the guidelines of like your parents, your teachers, your friends, of what they actually expect. And in that case, I didn't even give my true self much thought of who I wanted to be until I had this aha moment in 2012. So I defined myself previously by the relationship I had. Like I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a manager, and I never considered the possibility of anything different. That can Piladi actually be something other than the norms or the titles that we get from society. So without a clear idea of the things that matters to me as a person, which I hope to become, I continue living for other people instead of myself. So we don't need to. So I started to try to see what the complete picture of me is going to be like, and started to actually ask myself things like, what do I want out of this life? Where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years? What do I regret most? And then one of the regrets that I have is going through life as somebody else but me. And what made me proud as myself? So by asking myself those, then I started to explore my passions in terms of, for example, so that it can help give life more purpose and make it richer and meaningful. So I started raising my hands in a lot of activity so that I can live out my passion and identify who I was. But one of the things that I think was exciting on the journey was when I actually wanted to try doing new things. So I went on a journey of doing different things that people who know me like wouldn't have never thought that I would actually do that. This was a good way of beginning to figure things out for myself, do something which was really totally different. You won't know what you enjoy until you give a shot of that. So one of the things that I actually started doing was I actually started doing the things that when I thought about them as myself, I would have a block. So things that actually gave me a grin or made me feel uncomfortable, I pushed myself out of that to actually do them. And it became energy. And once I started doing all these new things, they really gave me so much confidence. And my confidence grew in the level that, for example, whatever that I was looking for in terms of validation from people, it didn't matter anymore. Validation came from within when I started trying these new things. And people actually started saying that you have changed. And because I was not looking for validation in these changes, it was acceptable to me, not to everyone. I wasn't looking for people to accept me in doing all these new things that I was doing. I started saying, yes, I have changed, and it felt good. And I wasn't even apologetic about that change. People who benefited maybe from the old self were the one who actually started to distance themselves because maybe they are no longer getting the benefits that they have. And also going with what actually Queen has mentioned, then when I did my MBA, this is one degree. I might have other degrees, but this is one degree I enjoy the most because I was myself. I really had fun. I really enjoyed the challenge. I really was in my element, was in myself. I could feel myself. And it was a journey that was so fulfilling. It was a journey that was so worth it. And with that, then my confidence grew. And I think that is the most important things, to actually do things that will hone or increase your confidence as a person, because the greater self-confidence, in turn, it encourages you to keep exploring new talents that you might meet. As for example, as Pindiwe is mentioning, that you try defining yourself with new roles or new things, along with other you may not actually have noticed before. In that way, you identify your value about yourself. So for me, it was really changing and not being apologetic about it, but just being myself and enjoying the moments and really making sure that as I grow, I really value myself more.
Okay.
Dr. Jane, if I can just add on to what Pelad is saying, especially about the MBA journey.
Yes.
I think most of us, I'm married, I've got 2 children, and like you're saying, don't believe that I'm an ambivert. I actually spend a lot of time at home with the kids. And I think for the first time being on the MBA journey, I was able to be away from family. Not that I wanted to be away from family, but I started doing things for me, and the conversations that happens during the MBA journey. The fact that you are waking up on a Saturday morning to go to class, to interact with other people, and you're doing it for you. It's not for other people. I think that was the most also, Pelad, you spot on there. The MBA journey really would change you, will change how you view your life, or the entire, how you view perspectives of life. So yeah, thanks for bringing up that one.
Okay. So thank you there. So we've got 2 vets there. So that's interesting. I like the fact that you say you started doing things for yourself. So you prioritized yourself. So whatever you were doing now, it was more about you than about pleasing other people. Because one of the things that we normally do as women is kids, husband, if you've got a husband or partner or boyfriend, whatever, kids, husband, partner, kids, and then you forget altogether about yourself. And then you become this unattractive, torn out, worn out kind of a human being that nobody really wants. And the husband also just stick around because then there's kids involved. But I've seen also a lot of times now, when you check also on social media, women are starting to say now, I love myself. I've got my me time. I take care of me. I'm taking myself out. I'm going away on a holiday. I'm leaving the husband and the kids and whatever. And that changes. And sometimes we don't realize that you cannot give what you don't have. And you cannot ask other people to give you something that you can't give yourself. And I was also the other day saying to Sis P on Facebook, when I was talking about this thing of prioritizing yourself, loving yourself, and people were going on about this thing that, yeah, you'll be busy with loving yourself and you'll be 50 and single. And Sis P was like, just leave single people alone. Because for some reason we grew up in this culture that we can't love ourselves. We must find men to love us. And the minute you start talking about loving yourself, people equate that it can be either or. If you love yourself, then there can't be a man. If there's a man loving you, you can't love yourself. And those are kind of narratives that are dangerous, that makes women carry this heavy load of making everybody else happy except themselves. And then that brings me to the question to say, okay, let me go back to Facebook. Let's not forget them. Please drop your comments there, your moment in life where you also find yourself. If you had that moment, drop us a note there and say, what is it or what happened that made you feel that as a woman, you need to prioritize yourself so that you can be able to give your best to everybody else around you. So drop us a note there, share your own experiences. And if you've got questions, drop your questions there. And if you want to direct it to any specific panel member, please do that. So what I'm talking about now brings me to a question of balance. There's always this thing that people are talking about as to, and this question normally goes to women. You are a CEO. How do you balance between your personal life and your work life? How do you keep a husband happy and kids happy and still keep the company happy? How do you find that balance? Have you found the balance? Does the balance exist in the first place?
Okay, I can go first. Oh, are you going, Sissy?
No, go ahead, Queen. I'll
Okay, let the CFO go first.
Yes. So it depends on how you define balance, right? If balance, you're talking about the scale, it doesn't exist. There will be it's a compromise. You must know it is a compromise. It is not possible to be everything, and it's not possible to make everybody happy, as in work and home and friendships and as human being, we are social being. It's not possible, and I think sometimes I'm not gonna sit here and lie to people and say I'm able to do the housework and I'm able to do that and I'm still able to deliver. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to the young girls who perhaps are on this show now. The honest truth is that you will have to have some compromise. It is about how you structure your life such that even through imbalances, you'll still be able to achieve quality life, right? So there are times when one leaves the office at 1 a.m., I'm not joking, it is a possibility. So I think women, we are setting ourselves for failure because we don't structure our lives such that we've got support structure. And understand, some of us are from different provinces. Our families are not necessarily around here, right? But you have to structure your life such that you are able to get a support system somehow running around you. For example, if your goals are to be able to be a CEO of a company and it's going to be rough, make sure that you've got a helper and take care of your helper. It's as simple as that. Make sure that you understand that for you to be successful, you will need that woman in your life to help you, right? And then if you've got children, make sure that, and you are married, for example, make sure that you have your husband and yourself are aligned. Do not plan alone when you have somebody that you live with. Just get that type of support, whoever you are living with. So I think, don't go out thinking that it is easy. You'll be able to cook and still be able to make nice sandwiches and still be able to, achieve the best at work. It is not possible. And forgive yourself. I think we get to be so hard on ourselves. Ooh, we forgot lunch sometimes. It's okay. The children must know that this is life. This is real life. It's not going to be perfect every day. One day you can forget the kids' lunchbox. So they will know that this type of things happen, So balance doesn't really exist. If you're looking at in terms of the scale, it doesn't really exist.
Thanks, Queen. I like that what you mentioned, to say forgive yourself. Life is not perfect, and if you want to achieve things, there are a lot of competing things, and you need to prioritize and forgive yourself, because one of the biggest things women deal with, especially when you are a mom, a wife, an executive, is the guilt. You're always feeling guilty that you are not giving your kids enough, feeling guilty that you're not giving the husband enough attention, and you're scared that the side chicks will take him. And then you also scared that at work you are not giving your company enough. So you are never happy because you are always guilty about everybody else that you feel you are not giving them enough. And I think the day you make that peace, like when I was doing my PhD, there was a day where I made peace that my kids, I am not going to give you enough attention. And my husband, I am not going to give you enough attention. And then it's up to them what they do with that. If the husband decides, since we are busy, we're not studying, I'm gonna go get a side chick, there's nothing you can do. but you communicate and you make sure that everybody's aware that there's this pressing thing in my life now. I am not going to give you enough, as you describe maybe enough they describe enough from their side. But you do your best, as you say, you structure it in a way you get support system, you get help and all that. So I like that, because that's one thing women struggle with, that you will never give everybody enough. And in that process, the person who suffers the most that we don't even talk about is yourself, because you've got guilt, you are tired, you are trying to be a superwoman, you are trying to be a super girlfriend, super everything, and that thing does not exist. Okay, let me leave it at that. Balance. Who wants to go for the balance story?
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing, Uguti. There is no balance. Even for guys, there is no balance. You know, guys who hold senior positions will tell you there is no balance. And there's a lot of guilt for women. On the side of women, this imbalance is accompanied by loads and loads of guilt. And the day we as women can get rid of this guilt, when we have to do things or when we have to take on challenges, it's the day that women would have won a very big battle in their lives. My sense is that even if you are scared that your guy is going to get a side chick, I'm telling you, your guy was going to get a side chick even if you were there 24 hours a day, serving him hand and foot. You know, a side chick will just get a side chick whether or not you are busy as a CEO or not. It's just an excuse. I just find that one thing that we don't do well, and it's not a female trait, it's just a general professional trait, especially amongst us as Black, our people, the people that surround us, have no inkling of what it is that we do and the amount of responsibility that goes with a new role that you are acquiring. So you now become a CEO, but people expect you to come home and cook, you know, and give them that meal. They don't understand that there will be days where they'll go with takeaways, especially if you are an FD at month end and you have to produce financials within 7 days after month end. And people think it must be work as usual. So I think if you bring them into confidence and you say, here's a new role that I've taken on, this is what it means for us as a family. So maybe at times we underestimate the threshold that our families can handle. You know, sometimes we think, but they can't handle it. These kids can handle it, you know, as long as they know. And also we don't take our kids and our husbands or partners to our workplaces. So they know you work there at that corner. Sometimes you drive past and you say, baby, this is where I work, you know. But baby has never come into your workplace and actually seen the level of responsibility you have and the people that bow at your feet when you walk in. So maybe if they saw that, they would start understanding the amount of responsibility that you have. So it's an issue of communication so that they help you find the balance. Another thing is how we don't listen to our bodies. And we'll expect, we are not nice to ourselves as women, and we expect ourselves to be at work even when the body doesn't want to be there. You know, when you are sick, I find that male counterparts have no problem of calling in sick and saying, I'll dial in from home. Thank God to COVID. Now you are learning, girls. But but before then, and I saw it with colleagues who would walk into work sick, because they have not learned to listen to their bodies and say, umzimba wami is just plain refusing to come to work today. I know that I have deadlines. I will still try and make them, but from the comfort of my home. And that maybe talks to the fact that we haven't made peace, or we haven't come to terms with our own authority. We have power, but we're not exercising our power. You know, I liked what you said to Dr. Pichoro. You've worked for this degree. You know, you've worked to be where you are. You deserve, there's nothing, you don't need to prove a point anymore. And that's a problem, Yabasadi, that we don't find balance because we're constantly having to prove that I merit being there. That's my thinking for now.
Thank you, Sis P. Before we go to Dr. P, let me just read a few comments from the Facebook side. Vise Kambata says, great evening. Finding myself was like rebirth. It changed my thoughts and able to stand the culture that defines where, how, what women can do. Okay, no, that's Tolelwa. Great choice to be here this evening from Deborah. Hi, looking forward to the conversation. So that's Deborah again from Cape Town. Hi, Lisiho, the way you write, I'm not sure whether I'm putting the right names for the right messages, but you'll forgive me. Hello, beautiful ladies. Can't wait to be inspired by your stories. That's Nonkululego, or some varsity friends, Nonkululego Sonsel. Lovely convo and interesting insight, ladies. That's Carmen, this is P. So question to the panel. As women, we often doubt the value we bring, and when it's our time to sit at the table, we feel unworthy. How have you dealt with limiting beliefs and self-doubt to ensure you take up your rightful place at the table and shine whilst there? That's a question from Tolelwa. And then the comment again, the guilt in some of us as women is caused by the long list that the society has developed for us. So those are just the few comments that we have now. We will schedule this up until 7, but I wouldn't like to cut it now while the conversation is still going and nice. So allow us to go a bit further. You joined us late as well, so you can stay a bit longer. And then we'll finish up maybe a few minutes later. Dr. P, the balance story. And then we can also answer Tolelwa's question.
Okay. From my side, the balance, I think what Sis P have said in terms of communication, that's really important to actually have that balance. But one of the things that I really, or maybe worked for me well, was to actually have those personal, for example, those personal board of directors, those people in your circles that will actually support you. So one of the things also, Queen, that mentioned that get the support and take care of those people. So what I have done mostly was, for example, the people in my family, in my in-laws before, maybe let me give an example when I went to study, because that's where, for example, I needed a lot of support from my family. So when you have invested in other people's life and when we have supported them, then when opportunities like this to come and study avail themselves, then it's an opportunity also for you to withdraw from those investments. So for me, it was investment to take care of a lot of people in my family. And when I asked for help with regard to children and going to school, it was really not an issue because they can now support you in that regard. But most importantly, the issue of communication in terms of what does this imply for me, and in real terms what it is. I remember before I started with the MBA, I actually took a weekend away with my girls. So I have 3 daughters, to actually explain to them what these 2 years which are coming before us, it will mean. and make sure that we have that family contract with them in case of what is it that it means. During that vacation, I really explained to them what this journey is going to mean and what is it that, for example, it seems practical to them that it's not going to be practical for a solid 2 years. And in that regard, after that, when along the journey, there are those, for example, moments of saying, you are not there, I need this. And then I go back to that conversation and say, remember, we said this. Then it became easier for me. But because also of what is important is that take care of the people that are supporting you in investment, in whatever that maybe you can in terms, it doesn't have, it's not even monetary. If you can help someone, definitely for sure along the way, when you need help, they will actually give that help gladly. So I have women in my family that are really supporting me when I really need work, when I really need that help. And most of the time, my work also will take me traveling across the country. And sometimes when you just call, you just make that phone call and they will actually support you in that regard. So for me, it has been that if you know that you're going to need help from other people, invest in other people's time as well. Give that time away for other people so that when you need it, you will actually receive it back. So that is important, and as well as communication. So I'm just echoing what Queen has just said, as well as what Sis Pindi have just said, that communicate and make sure that you take care of the people that can actually support you going forward. Because when you have taken care of them, when you ask for help, it will really be something that you don't even have to actually feel guilty about it. It will come as a result of knowing that you have already invested as well in their lives.
Okay, thank you for that. So take care of other people as well, so that when you need help, they can also be there to help you. But also caution, when you take care of other people, when you need them and they are not there, don't be grumpy. It's life.
Exactly.
Because not everybody that you take care will return the favor. But where you can, then also make sure that you invest in other people. Anyone who wants to answer Kolela's question? You still remember the question?
Would you repeat it, please?
So as women, we often doubt the value we bring. And when it's our time to sit at the table, we feel unworthy. How have you dealt with limiting beliefs and self-doubt to ensure that you take up your rightful place at the table and shine whilst you're there?
Yeah, Dr. J, for me, there is nothing except to just grit your teeth and walk in there. Sometimes people say, fake it until you make it, you know. There are going to be many occasions as a woman where you walk into a room, firstly, you feel outnumbered because not only are you a woman, the only woman, perhaps the only Black woman in that room, and it scares the hell out of you, you know. The only thing to do is to just grit your teeth, walk in there, you know, uzobona phambili. I've always maintained that no one was born a financial director, no one was born a doctor, no one was born a scientist, you know. It's skills that you acquire as you get given opportunities.
Yeah.
So when that opportunity presents itself, just take it with both hands and act like you know what you are doing. And if you don't know, ask. If you don't know, ask. Get help, you know, phone a friend. When I was going to join this board, I phoned all my friends who sat on boards. When I was going for an interview, I phoned all my friends, and some of them were not friends, people that I knew who sat on boards of these big corporates. And I said, what should I expect from the interview? What should I read? What? So always get help. If you don't have adequate knowledge, write down the note and go home and Google. If you are in that boardroom, sit with your laptop and quickly Google whatever word or whatever concept that they're talking about, but be clever about it. Be clever about it. The Bible says we must be as sharp as serpents, but as gentle as doves. So just be as sharp as a serpent. It's a dog-eat-dog world there, and you have to survive somehow. So you have to have that courage and walk in there like you own it, Ganti Utololo.
Yeah,
But
I
just
like that. Yes, Peladi.
to add what Sis Pindile is saying in terms of actually getting new skills, when you actually equip yourself with new skills, it gives you so much confidence in yourself. And sometimes that's what you need to sit on that table, the confidence. And I think for us as women, most of the time, our confidence is so low, even if technically we have all those qualifications. But when your confidence is so low, the people on the table, they're not going to believe that you can actually do what technically or skilled you are able to do. But just because maybe your confidence is so low, then people think that you don't know. So it's important to actually find and do things that will grow your confidence as women. And I cannot stress this enough of actually finding that self-inner confidence. It just adds that little spark in your life. And when you sit there, and for example, one of the things that is not going to matter is that there is such a thing as, for example, is called a stupid question. For me, that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be, but when I don't understand something, you ask question, I don't understand. And it's okay to ask. Most of the time, we don't ask questions because we think that, well, people will think I don't know. Yes, if I don't know, I don't know. And accepting that is not a sign that you are actually not intelligent. It's a sign that shows that you really want to know genuinely about what is said. So it's important to grow ourselves, to learn a lot about ourselves, do most of the things that really grow your confidence as women. That will actually give you that extra edge to put that chair next to on the table and to actually make your voice heard. Because one of the things that also I really believe is that I should never attend any meeting that I'm not going to contribute in. So in that, if I am attending, I have to make contribution and I have to ask questions so that I understand what my role is. If I cannot make that, then it means I'm not supposed to be at those meetings. Thank you.
Yes, that's important. I like the confidence story because one of the things that I've seen, especially when you in research, but more on the entrepreneurship space or business space, is women's confidence is very low when compared to men. Sometimes we laugh. I've got my friend Ilona that we sometimes talk about things and laugh and look at the things that men confidently take without knowing anything. And we know better than them, but we are scared to take them, and we're saying to ourselves, no more. We're going to go for those big things. Whether we know or we don't know, we'll figure it out on the way, because the confidence will take you far. If you are not confident, you can have all the skills, you can collect all the degrees, you can do whatever, but you are not going to go far. Confidence is very important. And you build that by keep on taking those things that you think you can do, but also don't just take them and sit and do nothing. You take them and then you equip yourself. There's nothing as bad as I always feel so terrible when I'm sitting in some platform with other Black women who took up big positions and then went and not developed themselves. When you take up something, develop yourself and make sure that you are competent so that you don't make other people continue with the narrative that, these ones are just PE candidates. They are just a candidate. So confidence is key, but you need to develop yourself. You cannot be confident empty. You need to develop yourself. Once you have developed yourself, then go for it. Take the things, you will learn. Men take it and they learn as they go. And some they don't even have the qualifications that we have, but they think they go for. The businesses they dream about that they're going to run, the profits they dream about. And we've got this much knowledge, this much education, but we dream this little because we don't have the confidence. And we need to start pushing each other to say, hey, go for that. Go, you will see it. If you fail, it's life. You're not going to die because you failed on something, but take it, you fail, you learn, you move on. Don't sit there and die and not take up opportunities. But confidence, women, we really need to work on that. Because I know from myself, because I started at that point where my confidence level was like negative. Everything scared me. Everything, I never raised my hand for anything because I'm like, what if I fail? But now I've made peace with failure to say, what if I fail? Then I fail, so what? I'm not gonna die. So it's life, and that's the attitude we need to have so that we can be able to take up spaces and develop ourselves. Let's see how many, I think the questions here are growing. We'll need to wrap up soon. Let me see how many I can go through. The guilt in some of us as women is because, okay, I've read this one, the longer list. So don't allow people to make a longer list for you, make your own list. I've personally procrastinated every aspect of my life. I used to put others before me. The environment within which I found myself social-wise, career-wise, have actually peer pressured me to put others before me. When I met Dr. Peladi, this is somebody who knows you, Dr. Peladi, my career was resuscitated. So big ups to you there, Dr. Peladi. Seems like we are doing something good. Now with every pressure that life throws at me, I continue to pursue my career. Whether my dream of obtaining a PhD happens at 60, I will still be content. And that's the spirit. You're never too old for anything. So anything is possible. I am now doing me. It's from Shubza Montla. I hope I pronounce it right. The views are still good and nothing has, oh, okay, I'm reading a Roman. That was supposed to be for me. And Spongile Ngala says, life is full of challenges. How you respond matters. There are different seasons. We need to embrace them. And Nonshansha Nkosi says, the main question is how do you switch off work challenges when we are at home and vice versa? Is there such a thing as switching? Maybe let's answer that before I read the other ones. Switching off, how do you switch off from work challenges when you get home?
Yeah, maybe it's a personality thing. The same way that you are expected to switch off when you get to work, right? You can't bring, I know we are human and it's the same human being that moves between the two worlds, right? Between home and between work. But it is important to train yourself to say, when I'm at work, I'm giving it my best. When I'm at home, I'm giving it my best. And over time, you master it. You switch off. You're like, I'm not going to be stressed about what happened at work. 90% of the time, then you get it right. So, but I want to comment also on the question that was raised about how do we, as women, now do we find our place in the boardroom? And I think the reality is, in the boardroom, there is still that nuances around women. Men have a way of trying to, silence us. I don't know, maybe it's because our voices are pitchy that it irritates people, or maybe it's because women, we are honest most of the time of how we view stuff. But there is, so unfortunately, it can get very tough in the boardroom. It can get almost to an emotional state. It's not that easy in the boardroom, right? Because you're a human at the end of the day. And when you are sitting there and people try to reduce you to something, that is not worth, as if you're not deserving to be part of that, boardroom, So, but you have to take up the space and you have to continue making sure that your voice is heard. I cannot remember this other CEO. I forgot her name. I wanted to mention her. So I was listening to her on TV, on an interview, and she said, it's unfortunate that you have to develop a thick skin. You don't just get emotional over nothing. And the beauty about being part of the boardroom, you realize that often enough, it's actually not personal. It's about work.
Yeah.
And you at first you take it personal. Every argument make you want to cry, and you're like, but I work so hard, I prepared so much, and nobody wants to listen to me, But at the end of the, and it teaches you there's some learnings of being in those tough situation where you're able to forgive people as well, to say, look, probably it's not about me. You know, it's got to do with him, whatever that make him to respond to me in this fashion. It's got nothing to do with me. The person needs to deal with their own personal issues. You're able to see when it's really worth it to, you know, get emotional about it. Yeah, that's my contribution there.
Okay. Thank you, Queen. That's important, yeah, because when we are new there, you take everything personal, and then you watch other people, they rip each other apart in the boardroom, and then when you get out there talking and laughing, and then you are like, why am I still emotional about it? So yeah, you learn the tricks of the game as you go along. Busindlovu Kamabele says, great convo, mentorship is key. So she's bringing an important element there of mentorship. It helps to get other people who have walked the road to mentor you. So that's important. I'm in the enterprise development space, and my core responsibility is stakeholder relations. I would like to stay in touch with the ladies, if that's okay to them. That's from Nonkulego, Nonselo. I'll share their details, Nonkulego, with you later when we're done. That's true, Dr. P. It's all about confidence. Thanks for that from Mangwedi Setladi. Dr. Day, you should have scheduled for 2 hours. They want 2 hours, and the ladies are done with the bathroom. They still need to go cook or takeaways today. Dr. Day, you should have scheduled for 2 hours, refreshing and empowering conversation, I must say. Bravo to all the panelists from Bule. Oh, we've got a man listening as well. Be sharp like a serpent, I like. Thank you, ladies. This is so empowering from Cindy Moyiko. Busindlovu, men learn at the golf club and outside the office. Zaneleng Muse, oh yes, courage. Do you want to comment on men in the golf club there? Okay, let me read this last one before we go to that one. The society have taught us that women are supposed to be strong, and most of us women are still living up to that myth. We forget that we are human beings. We need to love yourself before any other person so that we can be able to take care of the next person. That's from Lebs Huaneng. Confidence is key, but we should remember to stay humble even when we are up the ladder. Women can be assertive without being aggressive. From Malinsui Lebutseule. Okay, do you want to comment about any of these comments? I think we should wrap up at 12:30. We've tried our luck to go over 7. Next time we'll think about the 2 hours.
Dr.
Any
J,
comments from the panelists? Yes, SP?
Yeah, it's a subject that's very close to my heart, the issue of people negotiating deals at golf clubs. Mm-hmm. I want to believe that our biggest struggle has been trying to emulate men instead of bringing our femininity into the boardroom or into a role or a senior position. My value proposition has always been to bring the woman Pindi into a boardroom. So sometimes people would say, but Pindile, you are being emotional. This decision is emotional. And I turn around and say, it's because I'm a woman. Why did you appoint a woman into this role? You know, perhaps, maybe, just maybe our boardrooms do need emotion, because some of the decisions that are taken at boardroom level lack a lot of emotion. And for people like us who love people, who thrive on making people develop or getting people developed, this does not sit well. And therefore, perhaps the boardroom does need woman intelligence. So women should not shy away from acting out their womanhood in the boardroom, because in the same vein, men act out their manhood in the boardroom. And so we should also then find ways of interacting as women in circumstances or situations that are comfortable to us. Perhaps we don't like golfing. So what do we do? What is it that we like as women that we can do together? You know, and have tea. So let's have these teas. A lot of us have these nice houses and dining rooms, and no one ever sit there. We've got tablecloths that are ironed. Double auntie are ironing our tablecloths. They are sitting there. Can we just have a day where you invite all the ladies and you sit and have coffee and you talk about these things, you know, about these boardroom issues, and empower one another the way men would do it by going to golf. But also, you know, and it takes into account the issue that we have children, perhaps, and such circumstances allow us to even bring our children to those places. But all I'm just saying is we shouldn't lose our womanhood in acting out our roles or these senior roles.
So talking about being emotional, I mean, all of us have those days at work. So, I mean, I remember the other time I was working so hard, right? And my boss, it's a man, and, you know, we've been going through budgets, and that period is very tough. Budgeting time is very tough. So I got so emotional. I wrote an email, a big email, and I'm like, sent it. This is how I feel, right? But I was so amazed at how women take these, I mean, men take these as compared to women. And from time to time, I think about that moment that, wow, my manager being a man, the way he took it, I was wondering how was it going to be if my manager was a woman. Probably there was going to be, so it shows that for some reason, it's not like we're trying to emulate men, but there's something that we can also learn from men. You know, men are like that. They're a bit less emotional, and that helps them perhaps to deal with matters objectively. There's nothing wrong if we learn to men. You don't necessarily have to change yourself from being a man, but these small things that we can learn from men. So, and there's one person who spoke about humility and stuff like that, and I think we must also be careful of overcomplicating these matters, because sometimes the level of humility might also stop you from progressing. So you must have enough level. You must not, humility is important, don't get me wrong, but I find that especially in the Black community, we take it so far that sometimes we compromise our own progress through that journey. So just be careful of making sure that you balance your humility with still being able to progress in life. You can have both, just don't have too much of one.
Yeah, I like that, Queen, because for some reason I'm anti this word of being humble, because it's been really abused, especially in our communities. Humble means having no voice. Humble means accepting whatever other people give you, whether you like it or not, and all those. Humble means walking with your head looking down, you know. So it's important that we define humble for ourselves, and as you say, find the balance, because you can lose assertiveness in this quest of trying to be humble according to the way our communities define humble. And I grew up in a church environment where this humble thing was like hit so hard in our heads that I am so anti this word humble, because it's really have been used to abuse people, because it's like this word of that wives must respect their husbands. That's another word that has been abused, where you are not supposed to have a voice. You must be humble. You are not supposed to show that you are competent. Like, I'm a doctor, I worked for it. I am proud I'm a doctor. And some people say, you cannot say that. You can't call yourself a doctor, be humble. When I was busy studying, it was hard and I want to get the benefits. So it's very important. I know there's a very thin line where there's confidence and then you can get to the other side as well. So as you say, the balance is very important, but we also need to always stay alert to that fact that we don't lose our voice in the quest of respect and humble and all those kind of things that other people use to suppress us. So that is something else. Dr. Peladi disappeared on the video there. Lisego, I think let's stop on the questions. I want to wrap up. Can I just read the few so that we can wrap up? It's already 3 minutes to past. I want us to wrap up now at past. Let me see where I was. I lost where I was. Okay, thank you for your authenticity and for sharing your experiences and wisdom with us. Empowering, that is coming again. Thank you very much for the platform. It is very empowering from Silkanya. How is the, okay, let's skip that. True, Dr. P, self-empowerment is important. We should always look for opportunities to grow as human beings. That's Lebu. True, Queen, it's important also to learn from men, especially about emotional intelligence. And Shang Kosi says, maybe we have to define humility. It is a topic on its own. Yeah, maybe we'll have another conversation where we talk about this humility, especially for women, because I am really, that humility thing, yeah, the personal thing, but yeah, especially for women, we need to have a conversation about that. Humility, respect, submissive, and all those things. You know, Sis P in church, the submissive and all those things. And we need to be really very clear and define it clearly. We'll stop there, Lisego, on the questions. But I want us to wrap up by asking each of you, as we wrap up, 2 important things that you will give. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I found it very useful. 2 important things that you will give as an advice to the younger you. What is it you wish you knew when you were younger that you think will have changed maybe your life trajectory?
Hey, I feel like I've got 3 though.
That's fine, you can go for 3.
So I think number 1, I think it is important for people to know that in our journeys, I'm from the rural areas, you know, I caught a train to school. Train is para, you know what I mean? So I'm saying for some of us to get where we are, it does not necessarily mean that we've come from the perfect backgrounds. You can still make it irrespective of your circumstances. So you just have your goal clear. Write down what you want to achieve. That's my first one. The second one is we also have to learn the concept of sphere of concern and sphere of control, right? I find that often enough as human beings, we are delaying ourselves with progress because we are concerned about everything, right? We're concerned about politics, concerned about a whole lot of stuff. We're concerned about people going hungry, concerned about people who are rich. So you've got to, in a way, try to focus on the sphere of control, because being concerned about all of these issues, it's not going to change your life. You're still going to be where you are. You're still going to be, if you're not driving a car, you're still not going to be driving a car, worrying about Zuma and that. I'm not saying we should not have a voice, but I'm saying just try to focus on the sphere of control, the balance that I spoke about earlier. Number 3 is one thing I learned very late in life, and I'm very grateful to have learned it. And I know some people might not like it. And I've taught my children, and I want my children to grow up knowing that, right? Life is not fair, guys, right? Life is not fair. And the sooner you understand the concept of the fact that life is not fair, the sooner you're going to progress in life. I'm going to give you an example. Is it fair that you live in a house for 4 million rands when other people are living in the tin house, right? Is it fair? It's not fair. And it is what it is. It is life. And we must not tend to look at life, it's not fair when it's unfair to us. You must just accept that life is not fair. And the sooner we accept that, we're gonna go far. That is my view. That's the 3 things that I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully we'll share more in future.
Thank you, Queen. Life is not fair and you can't change it, accept it. Sis P?
What I would say to my younger self is, first of all, Pindile, sleep at night. The sun will shine tomorrow. You know, the sun will still rise again tomorrow, because we spend a lot of time worrying about things that are outside our sphere of control, as Queen has said. But the one thing that I would tell my younger self is not to try and control everything, and think by thinking hard and traversing and worrying, things will change for the better. And the second thing that I would tell the younger Pindile is that, Pindile, you belong. As soon as you enter that room, you belong. It's your space. Just occupy it, take it, and make the most of it. But more than anything, leave a mark. Never allow yourself to be overwhelmed by space. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sis P. You belong. Wherever you go, wherever you are, you belong there. Don't feel like an outsider. You belong. Dr. P, what will you tell the younger Dr. P? 2 things that you will tell the younger Dr. P that you think if you knew at a younger age, that would have changed your life trajectory.
For me, 2 things for myself that I would have actually liked is that, Piladi, you matter. You matter, you matter, you matter. And that will actually help me to understand the journey of actually finding my passion. And I think the other thing was to really nurture the passion that I had, other than maybe following a route that society has actually stipulated for me. So those are the 2 things that if I have had them while I was still a teenager or young, that I met it, that my passion was enough, then life would have been different. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. P. There's this quote that I wrote some time ago, which I said if I knew this at a younger stage, it would have probably changed my life. One is that education is the foundation, is key to a better life. 2, that marriage is not an achievement. 3, that being an executive or being a business owner is an option available for young Black girls as well. Being an employer or being an employee is a choice and is options available to Black girls as well. You don't have to be an employee. You've got the option to be an employer. And those are the things that I wish we can, or younger kids can understand, that if you can get to those basics to understand that education is key, it will change your life. And that marriage is not an achievement, and marriage is not something you've got control over. So there's no point not sleeping at night, as this piece is saying, worried about the men, whether you'll find the men or not, because you might not find one, unfortunately. And then what's going to happen? You're going to be unhappy for the rest of your life. Not all of us are going to get married in a lifetime. And if we understand and not put that in our achievement list, put other things in your achievement list that you've got control over, that will change your life, and that will make you a bit happier, because you can manage, you know, the things you can control that Queen was talking about. So those are the few things that I always feel that our younger girls can understand and know that whatever men do, whatever men achieve, it's not closed for us. It's open for us, and it's our option to choose whether we want to take it or not. Thank you from everybody from the Facebook Live who joined us today. It was just too interesting for me to stop it within an hour. And I see also you stayed on, so that means also you were enjoying the conversation. I hope that you have gained something. You will go out there, be confident, know that as a woman, wherever you get in, those men, whatever they do in those boardrooms, they learned it as well. They were not born with it. You can do it too. Wherever you go, Sis P says you belong. Queen says worry about what you can control. And Dr. P say you matter. Love yourself, take care of yourself. I always say, love yourself as if nobody else can. Take care of yourself as if nobody else can. And that is a key. Let's be happy. Let's support each other as women, because we are stronger together. Thank you to my panelists. You were amazing. Thank you very much. Different perspectives, different experiences. And yeah, I'll for sure call you again so that we can talk about being humble. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisiko, from the Facebook side.
Thank you, Dr. J.
To talk about that. Thank you very much,
Dr. P, Queen.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you, Pindile.
Bye.